don't have any notes, but I've got, what do you call it? Skills.
It's the guy
It's
who
the
not
guy.
only is an explosive play machine, rumor also has it is that he's hung like a baseball bat. And then she says that her friend received a picture below this man's knees.
It was below his knee.
And apparently the girl told him to put that thing away because that's a weapon. Optimal meat.
It's true, man. You got to really take care of your meat.
I trim my meat. I do all kinds of things to it just to make sure that it's the best case possible.
Got to put the rub on.
Yeah. I trim it. I rub it. Sometimes I lubricate it.
That's what we bring on the Dynasty Underground. Optimal meat. Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. Dynasty Underground is back in your life after a week off. It is so good to be back. I am Trav, host and West Coastin'. With me, as always, the wise man, Jax Falcone. How are you doing, my man? It's been 2 weeks since I saw that mug, and I miss you.
Yeah, and I've also been like 2 other weeks, no undrafted. I've been touching the maximum amount of grass one can touch. So much grass, I didn't even see any grass. It was crazy. I was on mountains and stuff. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, the group chat was popping off with the adventures of Jax and family, and very well-deserved time off, sir. Undrafted, I'm sure we'll be getting back at it soon enough.
Yes, sir.
Of course, in the corner office with the view. Got the collared shirt back on, but not a full button up, just a half button golf polo today for the new dad of the show, one Joe Quavius Kuvatakis. How are you today, my man? It's good to see you as well. It's been too long.
It has been too long. I missed you guys so much last week. I love how our last episode was the bonus episode, which was a regular episode. And then I told everybody we'd be back next week with a regular episode. And then we were just
lies. Just lies all over. I didn't even tell you I was going on vacation till like 2 days before the show. I'm like, oh, by the way, not doing a show this week.
So
Good luck.
There was a bonus episode, which wasn't really a bonus. We're basically at like -1 or 2 episodes right now. But I'm glad to be back and seeing your faces. I will say, holy shit, I had so much FOMO seeing everybody posting from the Fantasy Expo this past weekend. Like, Jax and I and Chalk and, Biggs and Grindberg and Dukes and Marcus and, I'm sure Tommy. Like, we went last year and, missed out this year. Biggs and Grindberg were still there. Colt was there, but dude, just seeing the post this weekend made me really miss it. As a new dad, there was no way I was going to be able to justify going to that with my wife, but man, it looked like fun. So, had major FOMO, then didn't talk to you guys last week. So I'm so happy to be back, seeing your faces and just talking some ball.
Yeah, man.
Maybe we can do next year. Maybe we can do a little something together.
I'm in.
Get the Kuvatakis, the casual Kuvatakis, and the Falcone family, and if we can get the Seal clan down that far, that would be an impressive feat. We're gonna have to do a fundraiser. There's a lot of these people. There's a lot of them. I mean, plane flight for this family is got to be like 5 G's or something like that. I'm not sure.
What's a group of
the
seals
dollar
called?
Ain't too good, boys. The dollar ain't too good for us up here. Let me tell you.
What's a group of seals called? Is that a herd of seals?
I couldn't tell you.
How do you not know this? This has never come up. I'm the first person to think of that. A flock of seals.
It's true. Well, I don't know if anybody would ever call them a flock either. Yeah, I don't know what a group of seals. Maybe a pod of seals. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google this while you continue introing the show because the people need to know.
What do we call a group of seals?
It is a herd or a pod. We're both right, Trav.
Right.
We're both right.
See? I told you. I know my kind, brother.
How fitting. I think a pod of seals is the most fitting.
It's so fitting. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's other ocean animals. Like a dolphin is pod, I think, as well. So it just kind of makes sense. They're an ocean animal. But anyway, guys, I hope.
Flock of falcons, a pod of seals,
Are we
Pod
done
of
here?
seals.
Are we
and a
fucking done
clan of
here?
Kubitakai.
Kubitaka?
Uh,
Okay, so as I was saying, boys, I hope our listeners missed us
this is
as
great.
much as we missed each other because we have a fun one tonight. Much like this show, guys, the players that we're going to talk about tonight have a wide range of outcomes. Every episode of this one is a bit of a roller coaster, and some of these players may or may not be a roller coaster as well. So before we get into those guys, we all brought some names that we want to talk about. Do want to say, please go subscribe on that YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and check us out on your favorite audio platform. That's the whole kit and caboodle of our content right now, and the shows are going great. Undrafted is out there on video, as well as the boys from the Dynasty Pulse. It's a good time over on the Undroppables YouTube, guys. But yeah, we're going to talk about some wide range players. Jax, this was a good suggestion for you. We're going to talk about those guys, kind of the best case and the worst case Ontario for them.
I'm always, I'm always doing this thing where I'm like, either high or like eating mushroom chocolates. I was on vacation and I would be like all in my head with all these great ideas. And I'm always so afraid that I'm going to forget the cool ideas that I have. And this one, I didn't take a note. I didn't write it down. I was just like thinking, and then like somewhere on the way home, I was like, oh yeah, that thing. And then I texted you guys to make sure I didn't forget it. But it's like, yeah, sometimes you just have an idea. And I guess the impetus for this show was, we talk in range of outcomes so often, between us, and you should be thinking in range of outcomes, not just one thing that you think will happen. I think we're also going to talk, as we talk about range of outcomes, best case, worst case, and I think it's important to mention that when we talk about best case scenario, we're not talking about the 0.1 or the 1% outcome. We're talking about like the 10 or 20%, outcome, and the 90% outcome, not the 99th percentile outcome of a player and the 0.5, because everybody would be killed in a train wreck would be the worst case scenario. It's like, so we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about sort of the more practical best case, worst cases, and then, what's the most likely, and then by working through that, then what's the answer? What's the action to take? And I thought that was super fun to think about. I started thinking about players, and I thought it'd be way more fun to talk about with you guys.
Totally. I went down some pre-show rabbit holes as I was digging into some things for the show, so I got some stuff locked and loaded. Joe, you fired up for the best case, worst case. Why don't you give your take on the concept and then fire into your first player, sir?
Oh, you know what? We all gave our list of players to each other. I don't remember which ones I selected because I was like, oh, these are all good. I dug into all of them. Yeah, I think Jack kind of pretty much nailed it. Like, I look at it as a band, right? There's the low end of, think about it in terms of charts, right? There's the low end of the band, there's the high end of the band, and then there's the median outcome of the band, which is to be expected, which is sort of saying the same thing. But why don't we just kick it off with one Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Sure.
So, I think have been probably the lowest on him in this group. He turned some heads early in the offseason when people got to look at his gigantic biceps, which honestly kind of is a red flag to me. It kind of gave me like harkening back to former Arizona Cardinal, some David Boston vibes, right? Where he like that 1 year, like he was awesome, and then he got like and then he got too jacked, and you're like, whoa, that guy looks ridiculous. And then he just fell. He was out of the league the next year.
What a pull.
Right? So I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing that his arms are getting so big, but I guess it could help in some ways in terms of like creating some separations in more physical situations. But, let's not speculate too much. I did some digging because I feel like I have been low on Harrison, and I think I've unfairly attributed my skepticism to him basically just entirely on Kyler Murray and the fit with Kyler Murray. And that's, he was a 91.9 rating in the UN model, right? That's fourth highest all time since we've been tracking it. So this is a dude we think is going to hit. And by all accounts, he had a very good rookie year. Maybe not as good as the expectation was, but like if you gave any other rookie his stat line from his rookie year, you'd be like, yeah, that was a great rookie year. Yeah. This guy, it's very promising, right? So I just want to kind of check myself on that front. But then I like dug in and I looked at Matt Harmon's reception perception, and per his charting, Harrison had a 73.1 success rate versus man and an 81.1% success rate versus zone. Those are both good marks. So you want to be north of 70 versus man, and you want to be, star receivers are north of 80 versus zone. So he check, right? So, the best case scenario for him, I mean, he's got everything he needs. What he really needs is a usage change, right? He was put out on an island on X, right? And this is exactly what we were worried about last year, like leaving him at X forever, and that just being a bad fit with Kyler. But the best case scenario for him, he just needs to keep doing what he's doing, but get a little bit more usage at flanker, get a little bit more usage at slot, give him a few more layups, and not just park him at X. I don't know. You guys want to go with best cases, or should I give my worst case first?
I think I've got an answer for worst case. So I'd love to hear yours.
I mean, my worst case is just listen. It's the same coaching staff. It's the same quarterback. It's the same offense. They really didn't add much to the offense. So what reason do we have to think that things are going to change substantially? I'm sure they've heard voices chirping like, how did they underutilize Marvin Harrison that much in his rookie year? So, I mean, worst case is it's the same as last year, and we get another 800-900 yard season out of him with 5 to 9 touchdowns, which is fine. And that's like a wide receiver 3, but the expectation was that this guy was going to be a superstar. So that's the worst case scenario. It's just like if we get a repeat of last season, and then we're at kind of a breaking point where we need a coaching change or a quarterback change or something before his value can sort of soar to the level we expected it to be at by now.
Yes, I totally agree. I think the worst case scenario is a repeat of 2024, which is kind of leading the witness here, because I think that is telling us what we probably should be doing with Marvin Harrison. But I want to pull this up. This was kind of an interesting in college at Ohio State. Marvin Harrison had about 24% of his targets were contested. He was good on contested catches. Obviously, he's great. In the NFL, 33%, almost 34% of his targets were contested targets. That's got to change at some point for him to sort of become, one of these elite guys. And I think that's a bit of scheme. We talked about it. Our number one fear for Marvin Harrison Jr. coming into the league was parked at X, left there, given, the ability to just basically only be, an X receiver at all times. Now, he did actually play a bunch in the slot. I mean, he played about 25% in the slot, but I didn't see creative usage. I'm not sure that anybody else saw something different than I did. And for those reasons, and Kyler Murray, there's a number of issues, but I don't think it's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s skill set that he can't do these things. It's just the way that he's utilized out there. And the muscles don't really help the case for him to go inside a bit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just think that he's that queen chess piece that you do want to use all over the field. He's your best, weapon. You do want to get him as involved as possible. I think the worst case scenario is a repeat of 2024. I think the bigger question is, what is the ceiling? Look, we can say for sure that target share of 25% or 30% is possible with this player. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And if he gets that can put him in the 150 target area, which is possible. If that happens, now we only need efficiency to kick in, which for a player like this could absolutely happen. So 100 catches or some crazy thing, 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, and double-digit touchdowns are all in play. I don't think, again, it's most likely, but I do think it's well within the range of possibilities for Marvin Harrison Jr. What do you think, Trav?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I'm probably the most bullish on Marv out of the group of the three of us. And I just think there's so many things outside of him that were not very good in 2024. We talked the Kyler Murray issue to death a couple episodes back, but when we look at receivers who saw 75 plus targets, there were 66. Marvin Harrison was 60th with a catchable target rate of 71.9%. And so that, along with only being used at the X, they didn't use a ton of motion or creative plays
Right.
and stuff like that. I think they were kind of mid-pack as far as first down passing when you look for kind of creative and explosive things. And so I just think that it's just kind of a purgatory as far as the play caller. And I cannot believe that he kept his job, Drew Petzing. But here we are for Marvin Harrison. So I'm like cautiously optimistic just because I think that there has to be some positive regression or upward motion from some of that stuff that you saw last year. Like, I think Kyler's really bad, but I don't think he's necessarily that bad. And only 114 targets for Marvin Harrison. I think that could potentially go up. And so, I'm thinking on the positive side, and the fact that we think a repeat of this past season is kind of worst case outcome for him. I think that room for him to go upward is really there. Like, he only had 21.1% targets last year, Jax. You were saying 25. I think that's so easily in the realm for him,
Yeah.
especially with what they didn't do at the wide receiver position. So I'm still there on Marvin Harrison, and I tend to get maybe not locked into, but I tend to hang on to the fact that like we didn't have this guy ranked so highly and so elite, and he didn't score so high in the UN score model, that I'm going to give up on him after one season. Because you mentioned too, Jax, that like 2 seasons like that in a row are kind of telling us what we do with him. But I think from a dynasty perspective, that puts us in way shittier spot if we have him on our team, right?
Yeah.
Because you're selling him way, way low. You're going to have a hard time stomaching that, even if it is a good value versus what he's done after those 2 seasons. So I would probably even be willing to continue just holding after this coming season if we see that worst case outcome, which I don't
Totally.
think will happen. So
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Right. So what's the more likely scenario? Before I go there, it's crazy because all the things like I'll give you another one. In college he wasn't a run after catch player,
no,
but in college his average yak was 5.1 over the course of his career. His worst season was 3.4, so 3.4, 4.2, 6.4 in his final season. Care to guess what he was per catch? Now yards after catch per reception. 5.1, 6.4 in his best. Do you have any idea what it might have been this past year? It was 2.4 yards per reception. That really hurts your yards per route run. Now, we did think this would actually be a problem. We talked about this, about him as a prospect. We're like, he doesn't have the tackle breaking, elite separation, run away from you that Malik Neighbors has. And it showed up in the stats. And so you just want to see a little bit better on all these things. Fewer contested catches, a little bit more run after catch stuff available to him. Like, just get him on a crosser once in a while. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
can a dude run a crosser? The middle of the field is where, where Kyler likes to go with the football. Why not put your best players in there? It's like, I understand you have Trey McBride, but, you can do a lot of different things. I'd love to see him get a little bit more creative. I'm a little dubious that they will, but I think most likely I'm going to put him in the 130 target. I think he'll have a better catch percentage. So I think you're going to see 80 catches. So, something like 80 catches. I think he'll crest 1,000 yards. I'm not sure what the touchdowns will be, but I think probably right where they were last year. 8 would be the guess if you had to. So probably, 80 catches, 1,050 yards, 8 touchdowns, which would not make anybody that happy. But I think that's sort of most likely
I
with
agree.
upside there. Yeah.
That's exactly what. Sorry, Joel. I'm going to kick to you in 1 sec, but that's exactly what I was going to say. I think that the most likely is between what he did last year and what we wanted from him last year, right? It's
Yeah.
probably just kind of splitting that difference there. And just on your note too about some of those contested catches, Jax, like I can't deny that that is totally a thing because I'm looking at his separation score by all alignments on fantasy points data, and it is not good. And so that
Right.
coupled with the lack of catchable targets from Kyler is an absolute problem for him hitting ceiling.
Yes.
Yeah, and he also only had like a 58% catch rate. But one thing I just wanted to point out, one thing that gave me a lot of hope, and this just goes to, illustrate the difference in expectations, right? Whereas Harmon pointed out, like, his rookie season compares really closely to CD Lamb's in terms of success rate versus man. Lamb was at 72.5% and 78.5% versus zone, and 80 versus press. So it's actually pretty close to Harrison's numbers. And then I cross-reference that to our model, and Lamb is the second highest scorer of all time.
Yeah.
Harrison is the tied for fourth with Malik Neighbors. Lamb is at 92.8 and Harrison's at 91.9. So yeah, there's a lot of reason for optimism and hope. And I think what's happened is just like the disappointment of the rookie year has kind of been unfairly applied to him in terms of his future outlook.
Yeah, I think that's based on expectations too. So well
Yeah,
put, guys.
I'm really guilty of that too, by the
Totally,
way.
100%. So I'm going to keep us with a second-year wide receiver, guys. And I want to talk a little bit about Xavier Worthy. I'm having a hard time pinning him down, especially for my 2025 rankings. Especially, it's really, really difficult. And like, I think with him, we know that range is super wide, right? We know that the bottom end could be as low as the -1 points he had in week 8 last season or something like that. And it's as high as like probably higher than the 22.9 he had in week 15 or 16 or something like that, right? So that range is wide. And I think we're probably always going to have that with him. But I think for me, it's more so like the consistency that he can potentially have within that wide range, right? Like we know that range is going to be wide with him and we think he's that kind of player. Is that production going to yo-yo from top to bottom, or is it going to settle and yo-yo in a certain range within the middle of that outcome for Xavier Worthy? Because I think like best case for Xavier Worthy is probably a blow-up season of like 1,200 with 10 touchdowns. Could be on 65 receptions, and Lord help us if he gets 90 plus receptions with what he could potentially do after the catch. So I think that upside is good. You've heard my conversation about this Chiefs passing game, though, and trying to just pin down these wide receivers and how fruitless it has been in the past. So what say you guys on Worthy? We've talked a lot about Rashee Rice, but I think Worthy presents potentially higher upside for me than does Rashee Rice if things were to fall his way, just with the profile and the explosiveness that he presents. So, Jax, maybe start with you because you and I have gone back and forth on Rashee a lot this offseason. Let's hear what you think about Worthy alongside that.
Well, for the same reasons that I like Rashee Rice, I like Xavier Worthy, and maybe was a little shy with Xavier Worthy. Look, he also was pretty awesome last year. I mean, you compare him to Marvin Harrison Jr. Had the same amount of targets, but more catches, more yards, more touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns. So this is the type of player with it, like you say, with his game breaking speed, where he can do stuff, in a whole different way. Meaning that he doesn't necessarily need, to be thrown the ball downfield. His ADOT was 9 versus, 14 for, Marvin Harrison Jr. His yards after the catch was 6.7. So they're getting him on the move. Yet still, he ran a lot of routes. He was actually lower in terms of yards per route run than was Marvin Harrison Jr. So you just kind of look at this stuff and go, okay, what does this all mean? I'm not sure. I do think that Rashee, coming back, and if and when he does, obviously, I mean, not if, but when exactly that happens, how the suspension plays out, because we'll see about that. But long story short is, I think because of that uncertainty, I think Xavier does have a bit of a higher ceiling. But yeah, I'm a buyer of Xavier Worthy at cost right now.
I think so
Real
too.
quick, just to clarify, are you looking at stats that included the playoffs when you cited those numbers? Because I've got them for
Yes.
different numbers. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I've got him for
Sorry.
638
I was like, wait,
yards.
that's crazy.
Yeah. No.
I got
His season was not as good
90,
as Marvin Harrison.
93. Sorry. I
Yeah.
looked at it. I was like, wait, how is that possible?
Yeah. 6
crazy.
TDs, 638 yards,
Thank
59
you.
receptions, which is all like still like we look at that as a pretty good season. The difference
Yes.
is like the expectation was
That's
so
why
much lower.
literally when I saw it, I was like, wait, what? This can't be right.
Yeah.
I was like,
No,
that's why if you notice, I was like, wait, this is changing my take as I look at this. I'm like, wait, I mean, I'm being Bayesian live. I'm like,
set those filters, baby. Set those filters.
yeah,
All
dude, I
right.
thought I had
So
him.
real quick, I mean, my take on Worthy is this one is so complicated, right? Because we saw towards the end of the season last year that he kind of stepped into the Rashee role, quote unquote, right?
Yes.
Like he kind of started occupying that space of the field for the Chiefs, and that was just like a valuable place to be in their offense. But Rice presumably will be occupying that role at least after, let's call it, the first 6 games. From game 6 on, or 7 on, that's going to be Rashee's role. So really, it's like And not only that, but they brought in Jalen Royals, who I think can occupy a similar part of the field that Rashi does. Kind of strikes me as like the direct backup and comp to Rashi. So I think they want to use Worthy in a different way. And not to go too far down narrative street, right? But Mahomes always sets one sort of focus every offseason. And this offseason, he has said many times, like, my focus is on the deep ball because he was so bad at it last year. You can think of all the times he missed Worthy and missed on these deep passes. But then, granted, they were down by like 20 plus in the Super Bowl, and he hit him on that deep one. It was like, oh, yeah, that's how you use a dude that runs a 4.21. So, like, I kind of think he's going to be more of I think you're probably going to see more consistency from him early in the season with Rashi out and a higher target share. But when Rashi comes back, I think he's probably going to assume some sort of perimeter, deep threat role and become kind of a boom or bust guy. And so, yeah, I know we're talking about range of outcomes. We could see all of them with Worthy just in different parts of the season, right?
Sure.
And like, I think there are going to be some games where he's got like just a few targets and a few deep shots, and you're really banking on one of those. But early in the season, I expect a higher usage. So, I mean, if in I know we're looking at things through a dynasty lens. If you're in a start 12, like, you just put Worthy in your lineup and hope for a big play at any point. But in like a redraft league, he seems like a prime trade candidate to me after like week 3 or week 4, just knowing that Rashi's coming back and Worthy's role is probably going to change to a more, lower target volume and higher ADOT role.
Yeah, I'd love to go back and just say, holy smokes, was I confused? I was so confused as to how that happened. But anyway, when I look at Xavier Worthy was 1.24 yards per route run in 2024. Rashi Rice on limited snaps, I understand, but was 3.16. Was absolutely crushing at the end of was crushing at the end of 2023. I do think that at the end of the day, it's going to be very, very difficult to rip away that role from Rashi Rice when he's healthy, when and if he's on the field and healthy. But the thing about it is if he's not on the field, someone else will take that sort of mantle for at least the time being. And Xavier Worthy's talented enough to sort of wrestle away some of those opportunities and maybe earn, sort of a split opportunity once Rashi gets back, so to speak, and
Sure.
So, yeah, that's where it gets a little bit murky. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Trav?
I think if Rashi's healthy, we're happy with Worthy not necessarily having the Rashi Rice role. Like, I don't think we want little Xavier Worthy to be running crossers across the middle, running past these linebackers, trying to find a hole there. We don't necessarily want that. I think what we want is some creativity where he can run some deep crossers maybe, and some of those downfield things like Joe said. And he also, 2 of the touchdowns he scored last season were rushing touchdowns. And so I call that Konami wide receiver upside that he has. And so he's liable for that any given week. And there was another game on top of those touchdown games where he had 30 rushing yards. And so there's a couple points to be had there. And maybe this frees him up to be able to be used more like that because he's not being relied on to be more of a target soaker in that offense. And so I kind of like both situations for Xavier Worthy, right? Like, more targets is great, but he's a guy that can produce on lesser targets. Just depends on some of the consistency of hitting on them. And so I'm willing to buy just because that upside is fun. I think what my recommendation for gamers would be is that you might want to insulate that depending on the build above Xavier Worthy if you're in a startup, right? So maybe you're looking at guys like a round later, like George Pickens potentially, or only a couple of picks later, so hard to get. Emeka Egbuka goes a few picks after Worthy. So if you come back with an Egbuka behind Worthy, if you can catch him a little bit late, probably taking him above Worthy. Actually, now that I say that out loud, you're taking him above Worthy for sure. But you can find some safety behind Worthy to make that investment okay, right? And so just trust in yourself to be able to do that. Maybe make sure that you listen to the Dynasty Underground to be able to find those players. But I think there's plenty of ways to make yourself feel good about Xavier Worthy, knowing that he's going to have some up and down performances.
Now we got to play Pickens or Worthy.
Pickens.
Ooh, that's a close one, but I think Pickens for sure. I think
Me too.
Pickens. I think
Me too.
week to week ceiling is bigger. Season to season ceiling right now is bigger, and volume is looking better.
Do you think the people want to hear me grandstand about Emeka Egbuka again, or just
No,
shelf
no,
that?
let's
No,
not
okay.
start that.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. No,
Just
I
checking.
paid you a
Just
compliment.
keep doing it on Twitter. Just keep
I
telling
know.
just keep victory lapping on Twitter. Everybody knows,
He hasn't
Jax.
done
I know.
Everybody knows.
anything. I'm just victory lapping. Like
I
people are
know.
getting so mad.
I acknowledged your victory lap today, and it hurt me just to do that. And it was only on Twitter,
it.
so I don't want to do any more of it with my
No.
voice.
We love
Jax,
I
give us a
do love it. It's running out clean for Emeka Egbuka. It's just so nice.
It's aging like a fine wine, brother. Take a sip.
wide receiver 1 in Tampa.
Who? Mike Evans?
I'm
Who?
not even joking.
Yeah,
It's
it
possible.
might come to fruition by season's end. But Jax, give us a player that is on tonight's show sheet that you want to talk about.
Well, let's do actually the story of the day. I think this is a good one. This was the Torrey Horton, right? So these are the types of players I like to think about when I'm thinking about range of outcomes, because it's like, well, what do we really think Torrey Horton could be? Like, people start getting excited. Oh, Torrey Horton's ripping it up and da-da-da. And I start getting excited, and we start imagining some things from a player like Torrey Horton, who's never done anything in the NFL because he's a rookie and was a 5th round pick. If you just take all 5th round wide receivers and put them in an average outcome, it's not good. It's not good. You even can put, Puka Nacua in there and it's not good. So we don't have high expectations when it comes to rational thinking. But we're not rational with players like Torrey Horton when they start to do the things they're doing in camp and they're starting to get the buzz they're getting when they have the opportunity to play potentially every down on the outside. That is hard to imagine from a 5th round rookie, but we've seen it before with a player like Puka. I don't think he's that type of player, period, end of story. But I do think he could be pretty interesting. And the upside, of course, is what's super exciting. The downside, well, we know what that looks like. It's 20 targets, and 12 catches this year. It's basically a nothing burger where he doesn't play. He's here and there. He runs some wind sprints and couple nice big catches here and there. It's Justin Watson or something, from 5 years ago, whatever. Even Justin Watson actually was better than that. He got like 70 targets. So what's the upside? I don't know. That's the real question. And I'm going to sit on the side, listen to what you guys think about for his upside and his best case scenario. What does that look like from your guys' point of view?
Real quick, before we get into that, I just want to share with you guys, I'm in my home league. My brother-in-law's in it. I sent him a trade offer today. I have RJ Harvey. So I sent him an offer. I offered Nick Chubb and Marvin Mims for J.K. Dobbins and Torrey Horton. Right. And he loves Nick Chubb. He loves Nick Chubb like I love Nick Chubb. And I texted him. I sent him the offer. Then I texted him on the side. I was like, hey, just sent you a trade offer. I want Dobbins. This is classic Trojan horse. I want Torrey Horton. He goes, I want Dobbins too. Look at you trying to sneak away with Horton. Not happening.
Oh,
he
what
just
a
ran
rascal.
right. I've been playing with him for, a long time. He knows my tricks.
Right.
It's like, you're not Trojan horse and Torrey Horton away from me. But anyways, let's just get off on some hyperbole because that's fun.
Yes.
JSN is calling him a baller. A defensive back, I don't know if it was Shaq Griffin, one of the defensive backs on the Seahawks called him Jerry Rice Jr. Talk about some hyperbole. But it is 5th round pick, is big time Puka vibes. Here's the thing. Sam Darnold is his quarterback. And if Sam Darnold loses his job, Jalen Milroe is his quarterback. I think this is going to be like a very run-centric offense with probably inefficient passing unless Darnold really has turned that corner. And it's probably going to be funneled through JSN. Not to mention, Horton's UN score is not even in the 50-50 range, right? He is a sub 60 points, 59.88. Like, not to say that it's unheard of for dudes that score that way to, post a usable fantasy season or two, but like it's not good. I understand why his score was that way. He was a transfer, he was a fifth-year senior. He did get hurt in that senior year. So he gets double dinged in the model because it's like he didn't get the production for that extra year in addition to, playing that extra year. So it actually really hurts him more for these fifth-year guys that don't actually play in that last season. Kind of like Trey Harris, right? But a little bit different, but similar sort of story.
Yeah.
So, best case scenario is, he beats out MVS, which it seems like he's kind of already done.
Yeah.
Is definitely doing. And he's the starting X wide receiver, or he's at least one of the starting receiver in 3 wide receiver sets. And we don't know how much 3 wide receiver versus 2 tight end sets they're going to play. But, if he's out there in 3 wide receiver sets, he's going to get an opportunity. Like, I still think it's kind of something like 60 to, 80 targets, unless Cup gets hurt, which is actually highly likely. But
now you're knocking on the best case scenario, because when you start to talk, you start to say things that you go, if Cup gets hurt, and they're like, huh. Well, that's kind of, he'd be number 1 on my bingo chart of wide receivers who are going to get hurt. Maybe him and Adam Thielen or something, So it's like, of course, it's a possibility that it's JSN and Horton and like somebody else, So Darnold's not great, but I think 100, and I say this realistically, 100 targets is best case scenario. That's not a 1% outcome. I think that's a 10% outcome. Like, because I think most likely it's 50 to 70 targets. That's, if I could guess.
That's a little high.
That's kind of where I am. I'm in the
high.
60 range.
Maybe high. 50, I think, is. You may be right, Trav.
If he's a starting receiver, he's getting 60 targets.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we just don't know. In 2 wide sets, like, are they gonna, like, they brought in Cooper Kupp, they're probably gonna put JSN out wide a little bit more. Cooper Kupp can play some of that slot flanker or the Z role, as I'm trying to call it here. And so I think they might work towards that. Now, I think the difference now is that Noah Fant's not on the team, and so well, maybe that's not necessarily a difference, because the AJ Barner Arroyo combo for 2 tight end sets is better than the Fant Arroyo combo, because neither of those 2 block. So I think they're set up to play 2 tight end, and they're set up to maybe play a little bit of 3 wide. But I think at the very least, Torrey Horton is the wide receiver 3 in an offense that we're not really sure if we want the right wide receiver 3 in that offense right now. But I think
here's one thing I'll tell you,
worth the shot, because he's the only guy with that profile on this team, and he's getting steam.
Here's one thing I'll tell you. Before all this was happening, right after the draft, there was all this buzz about Elijah Arroyo playing X. And I laughed at this. Why? Because if he were an X receiver, he would have been an X receiver. He's not an X receiver. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not one. That's not what he is. And
talk about hyperbole.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Yet you have a guy like Torrey Horton, who, just a real quick recap for you folks, yes, he played at Nevada and then Colorado State. Those are not big schools. But I'll tell you, his PFF grade throughout his time there is exemplary. It's all green. He is unbelievable when it comes to film tracking according to PFF. He also, over his last 3 seasons, was over 2.75 yards per route run every single year, topping out at 3.45 his 5th year senior. I get that, but like, when you look at some of these stats and some of these numbers, he had great ADOT, good run after catch. He's got a great body. We were afraid that he was going to be too thin. He comes in near 200 at 6'3". Like, he's kind of like the Superman CeeDee Lamb body. So it's like everything about this kid. And then he goes out and plays, and you're like, oh, he's good. So he just may be an above average X receiver in this league, period. Because other NFL players don't just come out and say shit like that unless it's real. Like, they're not just, there may be, like you say, a little hyperbole here and there, Jerry Rice Jr. or whatever. That's nonsense. But they're watching him going, dude, this guy's fucking good. And we heard this type of thing with Puka Nacua. Difference with Puka, of course, was he did score better in the model. He was more of a target hog, and he, there was better things about Puka, But in terms of if you're asking me who's this year's Puka Nacua, it's Torrey Horton, but it's not going to be at the level that Puka is. He's not going to be a top 5. That is the 99% outcome. The 80 to 80 to 90% outcome is 100 something targets with big plays mixed in there. And that's worth buying into right now for, future third round pick value. I think it's worth it. People are asking me, should I pay a third? I think that's smart. Actually, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, look at this. Okay, look at this, boys. So I just looked up the round 5 wide receivers since 1992, which is when targets were tracked. The 3 real hits out of those are Puka, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. Obviously, we're not saying
Diggs
that he's
had the knee injury though.
How about this for a ceiling outcome for Torrey Horton? Marvin Jones, former Bengals and Detroit Lions wide receiver, had a few 1,000-yard games. Pretty sure he had like a 5 touchdown games. I'm pretty sure Marvin Jones had. I think that kind of ceiling outcome is pretty good. I think 100 targets would be phenomenal in his rookie season. I'm not quite ready to say there's. I probably wouldn't even put that at 10% just because of the likelihood and like the hit rates on that kind of stuff. But Jax, I mean, if he does, that type of frame on that team is going to be sick.
It would require some injury from Cup, but I'm actually saying that's
like,
kind of likely. It's certainly possible. It's not like, wait, that's never going to happen, bro. It's like, and they're thin behind that. That's the other thing too. So even without injury, even if it's just some nagging stuff in game here and there, garbage time, there's a lot of ways for him to sort of kind of get there without really getting there. But yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. You like the Stephon Diggs pull though, huh? That was I remember loving Steph Diggs and David Johnson in that draft, and I want the Patriots to get them both. And of course they got neither. So, but now we got Diggs. We got him now. Sign David Johnson. We're all.
Okay, boys. This is a tough one. Why do we talk about?
Would you buy Torrey Horton for a third, guys?
I think so.
I think I would. I would. I mean, I just offered Marvin Mims for him. I think he's a third round value at least.
I think that's top end.
Should we go to Marvin
that I
Mims
would pay for him? Let's talk about Marvin Mims.
There's some heat coming off of Marvin Mims right now.
Yeah,
there he is, and this is my boy, right? But I have so much Marvin Mims, and I just on Torrey Horton, it's like the process this year just dictated that I didn't get any Torrey Horton, and across all my leagues, I was hammering running back there, hammering running back and tight end there, and just avoiding these receivers. And so I have none. And so part of the impetus of like my multiple Torrey Horton trade offers is just like the FOMO. That being said, Mims, he's so hard. I know I have expressed enthusiasm about him on this very show. His big issue has basically been route participation to this point, right? We liked him as a prospect quite a bit, but his route participation has never been there. And then even last season, when he started, having his little mini breakout and he scored all these touchdowns from like week 11 on, his route participation was never above, a week in the playoffs, he got to 75%. But before that, in the regular season, it was never north of 60.
Yeah.
Right. And so in preseason game number 1, and we don't need to, read preseason like it's gospel, right? But when the starters were out there, he got this 82% route participation. And that's way more than he got in any regular season game last season. So that could be a huge signal to us, right? The concern, worst case is he's Robert Meacham. Right, he's
Kenny
Robert
Stills.
Meacham in a Sean Payton offense.
Kenny Stills.
That's worst case. Kenny Stills had a couple 1,000-yard seasons.
Did he? Yeah.
That's
but
probably
I mean, like,
best case.
That's what we're. Yeah,
he's in that role potentially.
The profile, yeah.
He's a situational dude that like just gets rotated, and there's all the focus on Michael Thomas, who the analog is Cortland Sutton in this current iteration of the Payton offense, and he's just this rotational guy, and you never know when to start him, right? That's the worst case scenario. That's actually one of the worst scenarios to be in as a fantasy manager, because like you're like, I can't cut this guy. He's too good to cut. He can have these blow up games, but I never know when to start him. And you're just playing whack-a-mole with him on a week to week basis, right? Unless it's a very deep league where you just throw him in a flex spot and just bet on the variance, which I kind of do a lot of the time anyway.
Kind of have to in those leagues.
But holy cow, dude, best case, if this dude gets over 80% route participation, he's clearly gonna be in like wide receiver 2 range.
Yes.
What's
like
the probability of that though? What's the probability of that?
We don't think it's high.
Well, I mean,
I'm
listen,
giving it like
in the playoff game,
No, it's more than that. It's more than
80% is fat.
In the playoff game last year, he got 75%.
Yeah.
Right. And that was after, kind of he had earned some trust. And then in the first preseason game with the Stars, like at 82%. Right. So I think that's still unlikely. If we're north of 70, frankly, I think
that's
we're going to be
70, 80. Yeah.
Exactly.
Here's my Marvin Mims take, because this is very interesting. If you stack some of the data points together and combine them, which you can't always do. Coupons aren't stackable. You can't use the $5 off here and the 20% off there. You can't mix them all together, okay? You got to use one coupon per visit, okay? You can't get the free ice cream with the 50% off. You just can't do that. We don't allow for that.
But
if you could, here's what I get excited about, okay? You just talked about the 82% route participation in preseason, as well as the 70 some odd percent in the playoff game. If those two things are the continuing trend, and we can just say, okay, that alone, just take that one alone and put it in the bank, and he's somewhere north of 70, as Joe points out. Here's why I think that may be possible. If we dig deep, in 2023, his route participation wasn't great, but in the routes that he ran and in the targets that he received, he had a 15.2 ADOT. 15.2. Now remember, as a college player, he also had a huge ADOT, 16.7 for his career in college. And in 2 straight seasons, he had an average yards per catch over 20. So like, he is a big play downfield threat. This much we know. He was that in 2023. However, fast forward to 2024, and his ADOT was 7.1. 7.1 instead of 15.2. His YAC went from 7.1 in 2023 to 12.3. 12.3 yards per reception after the catch in 2024.
Those two things are linked. Those two things,
of course they are. Yeah.
More yards after the catch.
My point is he has now proven that he can do both things, that he can be the downfield threat and the guy that runs crossers, screens, shallows, get him on the run and go. And if he can do both of those things, that is the key to unlocking a wide receiver 1 in this league. 80% route participation, and both deep balls and the short stuff where he can catch and run. Look, this is the pathway. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but at best case scenario, he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team.
I love this point. And, the analog to that is like, think about a running back who is good in the passing game and also short yardage. So he's the touchdown guy and he gets the higher value touches being receptions, right? That's like the wide receiver analog, where it's like, we use this guy as a gadget guy and we use him on deep shots. So you're going to get cheap points and you're going to get big points. So that's such a good point. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Here's a couple things I just want to mention, right? He's really good against zone, per reception perception, like 74.5% against zone. Like, you want to be above 80. Sorry, I shouldn't say really good, but he's good against zone. Against man, he had a 44% success rate last season, but he had so little opportunity against man because, to Jax's point, they were using him. He got used behind the line of scrimmage more than any wide receiver in terms of a percentage of the plays that he was on the field. That was early in the season, though. And then late in the season, they kind of unlocked this deep usage. The week 17 game where he caught that touchdown deep over 2 defenders sort of comes to mind. It just stands out like, oh my God, it's happening. Right. So to your point, yeah, he can be used in both ways. And I think he's already kind of fixed as a gadget guy and also kind of proven his bona fides as a deep threat. And so, anyways, Trav, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just have to
I'm
acknowledge
excited.
that fucking vocab word before I start talking
Bona
about
fides.
Marvin Mims. Bona fides?
Yeah.
You fucking Greek Adonis, you. That was beautiful.
That's Latin.
Yeah,
Don't even
I'm not sure if he's shown his bona fides, to be completely honest with you. And like, I totally see the efficiency that I'm not sure what he's
gotta
showing.
Google that first before I know if he showed him.
You
Yeah.
can show it to somebody else though. No, and I see what you guys see, and I see the efficiency, and I think he's a dope player. I just think that all of those things that you guys are mentioning don't necessarily equate to a volume bump, which is what we need out of him, right? And I know there's that small sample size in the preseason and in the playoffs, but the larger sample size tells us a different story. And the fact that team has been aching for another wide receiver to emerge, and the fact that throughout the entire season last year, all that route participation is great as well. He never had more than 50% of the snaps. 47% is what he capped out at. And like, I don't know if you guys are saying that wide receiver 1 is in the range of outcomes on his team, but he's barely even getting like the wide receiver 2 snaps on the team, then I'm not necessarily buying. And the history tells us, and it's you guys are saying it's a long shot, so I think we're all kind of on the same page.
Well,
But
hold on.
I wouldn't
Again,
quite
last
be
year,
that
hold on.
bullish on his high end.
In year 1, his target rate was about 15%. In year 2, it was about 25%. This is kind of my point. There is some unlocking of a volume player here. He had 50 targets on less than 200 routes.
Mhm.
Like,
That's pretty sick.
Crazy. Like, if he gets 500 routes, are we saying he's going to get 150? No, of course not. That's not what's the word?
That doesn't
extrapolate that.
Extrapolatable? Is that
it is now.
Sure. Yeah.
Holy
absolutely.
shit.
The Dynasty Underground. We do what the fuck we want.
Extrapolatable.
Use it in a sentence.
I don't think that's extrapolatable.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. But I mean it. Like, you know, that's my point, is that the what he did in 2024, if you add volume to that or add just, you know, involvement, it's there. Now, again, as Joe points out, it's a little bit of gimmicky. Okay, I can hear that. So then give him all the long stuff. Give him a chance to do both of those things, because that's when he puts pressure on the defense. Look, just rewinding a little bit, I was like, when you said I would trade Marvin Mims for, Torrey Horton, I was like, I'm not sure I love that. I was thinking about
interested at
a
that
different
too,
way to go about getting Torrey Horton onto your roster. You know, in a lot of these dynasty leagues we play, maybe you have a depth of wide receivers that can just score points, you know, maybe a Steph Diggs and a Jaden Reed and a this, that, and the other, where both of them may be on the bench. Like Jaden Reed and Steph Diggs aren't even starters. But I think Jaden Reed is worth like a second. So maybe you sell Jaden Reed and a third or fourth for Torrey Horton in a second. That's what I would probably prefer to do, where I get the pick anyway, and it feels like the other guy's like, dude, all I have to do is do a pick swap, a 2-3 pick swap, and I go from
the downside of Horton. I think the downside of Horton is still too big for me to want to take that little of a draft bump and give up Jaden Reed. And I'm kind of bullish on Jaden Reed.
Little though, because you know who you can draft in the second round? T. Higgins. You know who you can't draft in the third round? T. Higgins. Like, those types of players aren't there. Second round picks.
If it's the 210 and the 302, then that's a whole lot different, right, Jackson?
I'm not usually the 302, pal.
So I know, Jackson, but you I understand that, but
no, but you got to look at your team.
I mean.
You got to look at your team. If you're a good team, yeah, you can do this. Like I just said,
anything can happen though. You catch a couple injuries.
Jaden Reed and Steph Diggs are bench players in this scenario for me on that team. That was a preface part of this trade that I'm making. Why do I need Jaden Reed on the bench when I can get another bench player who's Torrey Horton, but now I've improved my future draft capital where I can actually get a difference maker potentially in the future. So,
I think that's more confidence than me and Torrey Horton in year one.
Even if he craps out, I'm okay with I'm okay selling Jaden Reed for a second anyhow.
Yeah. I want to reiterate on that trade.
Yes,
it
sir.
was Chubb and Mims
I know.
for
Chubb.
Dobbins and Horton, and I have Harvey, and also two of my most rostered players are Mims and Chubb. So I was like,
Yeah.
I could afford to lose a few shares here and
Yeah.
diversify a little bit. But yes,
Yeah.
point
No, I
taken.
think it was no. I understand you weren't selling them straight up. You wouldn't do that. I know. But even the difference to get to Dobbins potentially could be nothing. Then you're like, you watch the Mims, what we just talked about happen. You'd be like, what did I do?
Oh, I'd be suicidal.
You'd be suicidal. Yeah. So I'm holding my Mims. I'm holding my Mims. I'm not looking to sell my Mims, especially right now, given the news of the day with him getting 80%. I'm just not going to sell on that because I think that you're not going to sell for a second. Nobody's paying a second right now for
Probably
Mims,
not.
are they? Right?
No.
Probably not.
Right. So why? Let it happen. Maybe you can sell for if you can sell for a second or more, sure,
Do
go
it.
ahead because that's the ceiling of what we expect anyhow.
Yeah,
I'd be
agreed.
selling them to you guys in any leagues I owned them as well. That's for sure. Because I still lean towards a little bit of bad bet on that. But and also, guys,
Fair.
this fucking bullishness on Marvin Mims, I'm not going to tell Troy Franklin you guys said that. That's fucking brutal.
Maybe Troy Franklin can become the gadget guy, and they use Mims in a more permanent role.
Yeah,
There has been
they're
some
all
talk
just getting
about
promotions.
I know,
Little
I know.
promotions.
Troy working with Nick. So look, to me, it's so
worked his
clear
way
that
up.
that's the 3 wide receiver set. It's like Franklin, Mims, and Sutton. But what the hell do I know?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about deep threat wide receivers, guys, we're talking about Jameson Williams now. I put him on the list, and I think he is so fascinating. I've seen people in the industry hyping him up as a potential wide receiver 1 for fantasy this season. I think that's a little bit crazy, to be honest with you guys. I just think that like the volatility in him, the departure of Ben Johnson, and the potential changes in that offense, to me, makes me lean towards he's going to regress from last season, and then last season might be one of the better that we see. But I totally recognize that the high end range of outcomes is higher than that. But I'm just not sure he's a guy who would present the consistency alongside a hog like Amon-Ra St. Brown, where he's going to get you that top 12 finish and make you feel great about it. Because I think the down weeks are going to kill you with Jameson from time to time still. I'm not ready to jump on that consistency bandwagon. Joe, where are you sitting with JMO, though?
Well, it's interesting because the reasons you cited for reluctance about Jameson Williams are actually the buy signals to me. I'm not saying that your analysis is wrong, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown has proven to be a target earner, but if Goff is signed, he's not going anywhere. If ever there was going to be a season where Jameson was going to make the leap ahead of Amon-Ra, it would be with a coordinator change and a little bit of a philosophical change,
Ahead
right?
of Amon-Ra.
I mean, for him to become a wide receiver 1, I mean, I don't think that there's any chance that happens in the Johnson offense. But like if they start taking more deep shots and they also started utilizing him more in the intermediate range as well, like he could start putting up more fantasy points than Amon-Ra, and Amon-Ra could still be a chain mover. But like again, this would require a philosophical change in the offense because Ben Johnson was never going to go away from Amon-Ra
Well,
as kind of
it's
like
not Ben
the main
Johnson
dude.
anymore, right? It's
That's
Johnny
right.
Morton.
Well, no, that's exactly
Oh,
my
yeah, you're
point.
saying last year he was never going to.
Yeah, if it were still Ben Johnson, that couldn't happen. And so you're citing reluctance because
Yeah.
of the coordinator change. And I tend to agree sort of directionally, the coordinator change moving away from Ben Johnson to Johnny Morton is probably overall bad for the offense and therefore bad for Jameson Williams. However, it is one of the ingredients you would actually need to unlock him to get him there. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that the door has been opened for it to happen. So this kind of already is like just from a Jameson Williams centric standpoint, one of the things that would need to happen for the best case scenario for Jameson Williams to unfold.
Yeah, I guess so. With Ben Johnson predicating on the run, I was more so thinking another year in an offense that we know is really innovative versus first year in offense that we're not certain on. But I see what you're saying there is like maybe this is the guy who believes in him. And so I guess what you're saying is that there is a percentage chance of top 5 upside in Jameson Williams. Not a
I
high
mean,
percentage. I'm not tying you to that, Joe.
Yeah, I would say the door was closed, and now we don't know if it's closed anymore. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
Yeah, and I think like when I'm looking at it, I want that versatility. You said we want more of those intermediate shots with Jameson Williams. And I took a little bit of a look for an article I wrote for the True North Substack boys and what he did on targets that were less than 15 yards. The counting stats were fine, but you look at the yards per route run, it was 1.59. And the fantasy points per route run was 0.35, which was not great either. And so like the deeper level efficiency didn't look great. The counting stats they were kind of middle of the pack. So I think we want to see him increase some of that efficiency for the coaches to trust him, but I guess new coach and potentially a new year for Jameson. So maybe that's in the range, but man, that feels very, very steep for a guy that I've previously just kind of chalked him up as one of those streaky deep threats. I like him. I think he's cool. I just don't necessarily know that he's a guy that we want getting, 130 targets. And be like a guy that can necessarily do it consistency outside of just the deep work. Jax, what do you think?
Yeah. So I'm trying to find the bull case. I'm trying to find it where I can say, hey, this is why Jameson can get there. I don't see it. And I'll explain why. Now, first things first, like he had one game with more than 8 targets last year, maybe even in his career. I think that's probably true. And if you take, 7 or 8 targets times 16 games, 7 is 112, 8 is whatever, 120, 128.5 or so, so he's like a 110 to 120 if you give him like his maximum amount of targets every game, 7 or 8 every game. That's one way to sort of look at it. The other way that I look at it with, and it's probably the better way to look at it, is his targets per route run. He has been 18% target per route run every single year that he's been in the NFL. Like last year's big breakout, whatever, 18% target rate. Like he ran 477 routes, 88 targets. 477 routes. I mean, that, we just talked about Marvin Mims getting 50 on 193 routes. Like this is way more than double. I mean, I don't see the the target participation ever. Even if you go back to college, he was about a 19% target rate guy. And then his best season, where he got drafted as a first round pick, was 23% target rate. Not even, target, his routes, targets per route run, not even targets per team, so that's super low, man. That is super low. He barely crested 100 targets on over 500 routes in his final year at Alabama. I know people say target competition, this, that, and the other. Look, he's never been a target earner. He gets there because he's dope, because he can take the lid off. He's such an athlete. He's so cool. I'll give you that. Look, if somehow or another he did get the targets, 25% to 30% target rate, well, of course, we're talking about an absolute superstar. So for that reason, I can see where someone would make that case. They'd have to make that case, though, because they'd have to say, here's why he's going to now take Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta and make them not who they are. It doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't see it, especially when you talk about Jahmyr Gibbs. Like if this was a team without Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe you could start talking me into it, but I just don't see how he gets to 25 to 30% target share on this team. I'm not buying.
And Joe, I just want to be clear here that you giving your upside top end of the range of outcomes kind of seemed like it pigeonholed you into like a pro JMO take. And I just want to make sure that I'm not throwing you into being like the fully pro JMO guy. You were just laying out the kind of top end of his range.
So. I've actually been pretty firmly in the Jameson Williams is a forever wide receiver 3 in fantasy camp for quite some time. And I'm very comfortable here.
Totally. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't pigeonholed in there as saying JMO's top 5.
Look, no receipts for that.
I started to get excited a little bit too, looking at sort of his end of season stats and all the rest of that, and going, hey, wait a minute now. Here's a guy, if he can get 7 or 8, if he can get over 100. But then I started thinking, well, look, even per route for his career, it's not there. So you really have to get him 7 or 8 targets per game, every game, that, in that ballpark. for
it
him
would
to
require
really get there.
it would require an injury to
You would
one of
think.
the
Yeah.
other dudes,
Yeah.
and that's how it happens. And we can't bet on that, right? And we can't bet on it sustaining, even if it does happen in one outlier season.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, if he gets 500 routes and he can get – all right, so let me just do the math. 500 times 23% would be 115. Like, this is –
Yeah.
that's like his ceiling. So, like, but he can get there on 120.
You know, like
targets.
1,100 yards and have a spike touchdown season,
He can
right?
do that. That's possible.
Yeah.
120-ish targets and, 10, 15 touchdowns, whatever it is, total rushing too, because he kind of gets some sneaky, jet sweep, misdirection stuff, so whatever.
Yeah. And
But I
when that
think-
happens, you sell.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And if you like him and you're holding him, just temper your expectations and go in thinking that maybe last year's 1,001 yards is like best you can expect, so that anything on top of that is a cherry on top. I think that's a good way to make sure that you're not disappointed and make sure that you're slotting him in the right slot in your starting lineup, and he's not in the wide receiver 2 slot on your team. Maybe he's in that 3 or flex like he probably should
I've
be.
seen the same thing where people are saying he's going to be an alpha in this league. And I guess
No way.
first round draft pedigree, big playability, absolutely athletic. But the things that I look at that hold me back are the target earning stuff. It's like, dude, you either earn targets or you don't. And to all of a sudden jump after 3 years in the league, I know he's had some stops and starts, but still, even so, as your 4th year, you generally don't jump that much in target earning ability. You can jump in efficiency sometimes. Guys get better. They start to see better routes and stuff, but he's been super efficient. That's not been his issue. He has to actually turn up the volume, which is super hard to do, especially when you're playing alongside Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
Okay, boys, we are moseying along here, and I'm going to keep going with the wide receiver discussion, guys. Since we're on such a roll, there is a specific wide receiver that I cannot wait to talk to, or running back that I can't wait to talk to you guys about, but I'll keep the wide receiver train rolling. This one actually does have a little bit of a sad vibe to it, guys, because I have growing concerns, especially short term, for Trey Harris. One of our steamiest of steamy dreamboats at the wide receiver position this offseason. And I still love him. I still absolutely love him. I'm not denouncing my love for him, but I mean, look at the environment, and it's looking like it's going to be tough sledding for him for at least 1 year, more likely a couple. Of course, Ladd and Quentin Johnson are already there. Quentin Johnson, we've already talked about being a bit of a thorn in the side of one Trey Harris. They also brought back Keenan Allen, guys. And that isn't like a necessarily role usage threat for Trey Harris, but it's a target threat in this offense overall. An offense that we expected to maybe have a bit of a smaller pie in general as far as passing volume versus rushing volume. And then a guy like Keenan Allen, who is absolutely not washed, coming in and taking some of those targets is not great for us to be able to see any signs of positivity even out of Trey Harris coming out of his rookie season. So, Joe, I can see you raring, ready to go. We were all bullish on Trey Harris. And so tell me what you're thinking here and how you're evaluating this maybe early season debris or early career debris he has to get through.
Guys, this is where we make money in Dynasty.
I agree, but it's
this
scary.
is where we trust the process. All right. He had a 74 something UN score, which is greater than like an 80% hit rate, if I'm not mistaken. Right. That's a very promising number. It's been nothing but bad news. Keandre Lambert-Smith is showing out. Keenan Allen got signed. His stock is way down. He's dropping passes like that mattered for Jamar Chase in his first training camp, right? This guy was a 5th-year senior in a gimmicky offense, but all his underlying metrics were freaking awesome. Classic. He's going to come on towards the end of the season. All we have to do for the first quarter of the season is take a look at his underlying metrics. Just look at his yards per route run stuff. And if it's checking some boxes, he's not going to be getting volume. Everyone's going to be worried that Keenan Allen is the wide receiver 2, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Oronde Gadsden, this, that, and the other. Trey Harris has like the the makings. I don't want to say like an alpha because it's always going to be the Lad McConkey show, but this is where we buy, right? There's blood in the streets. This is where we buy. Get ready to buy. Just plan on it. Plan on making offers throughout September into early October, because Trey Harris is, I think, gonna happen, and as a really good bet to happen as far as this receiver rookie class is concerned. So my best case for him at this stage, because you're right, Trav, it doesn't look good right now with Keenan Allen there. Target share is just not going to be there, right? He's a late season riser after a slow start. He's going to take a little bit of time to develop, but he's going to be entrenched by year 2, right? This is a long-term play, and I'm getting ready to start making offers for Trey Harris.
Yeah, no, I agree
as
with
soon
that.
as soon as sentiment is at its lowest, I'm going in.
I think where I'm coming and Jack's coming after this is like, I think that even late season riser is a really iffy proposition. And so like the worry is that as a holder, he doesn't do anything really this season and doesn't have that late season rise to the point where you find yourself needing to reinvest in that position that you thought he was going to be able to fill for you. Right. And so it's like, it's hard, right? Because there's a chance that we don't necessarily see it fully in season 2 either. And so that's kind of scary to hold that for that long.
Here's why I don't think that's going to happen is because what were the Chargers lacking last season? They were lacking dudes that could clear out the defense to make room underneath for their dude, Lad McConkey.
I think Quentin Johnson did an okay job at that, actually.
Okay, but not great. He's not like I mean, Quentin Johnson is completely buried. But like Keenan Allen isn't going to, he is buried. Yeah, I do. Wow. Keenan Allen isn't going to be the dude clearing it out. He's going to be occupying the same portion of the field, right? So they're still going to hit a point, right? They can't just run the ball and throw underneath on a condensed defense forever. They're going to have to start using either Keandre Lambert-Smith or Trey Harris to be stretching the defenses out a little bit. Keenan Allen also is not a great bet to stay healthy. And by the way, as much as we love Lad, he isn't either. He spent much of his college career injured as well, right? So like there's the opportunity is going to knock, and Trey Harris, once the game slows down for him a little bit, I suspect will be ready.
I hope you're right.
This is a tale as old as time, in my opinion. Jax, what do you think?
Well, I always get the heebie-jeebies when I make bets like this. I think the cool thing is that, and I was able to draft Trey Harris in my rookie drafts. I'm looking at it right now. Pick 18, pick 17, pick 17, pick 18, pick 22, pick 16. I never got him before the 2.04 or whatever, the 16th pick. So you're talking about a mid-second round pick in a rookie draft. We just talked to Trav. He's willing to hold on to those seconds or what, doesn't value this. These are the opportunities where, Trey Harris could be T. Higgins. He also could be Troy Franklin. So you're talking about a huge range of outcomes for Trey Harris, in my opinion. I do see the downside because I've missed on Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. Now, maybe Marvin Mims ends up becoming a third-year hit here, whatever the case, I get it. But you get my point. These are the types of players that you're getting in that second round. Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. I could go on and on, right? This year, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris. These are the types of players that can absolutely bottom out. They can absolutely become very, very little to nothing. And Trey Harris definitely has the environment to do that, where, there's some veterans. There's obviously an alpha. There's some other guys in Quentin Johnson and Keandre Lambert-Smith who could, sort of play alongside of him, if not beat him
pains out in the ass.
Right? Exactly. Where he's just getting sort of a roll here and there, very much like they did in Denver. Also, potentially low volume passing offense. They certainly want it to be. They don't always get to make that decision if you're down 14-0, as I point out. But given their druthers, they'd rather run the football. So I think all of those things spell some doom. I do like that he has Justin Herbert, who can certainly throw an effective ball downfield. And so that helps. But again, I'm not so sure that he comes out of the box just earning targets at a high level.
Definitely
and that's a concern. Whether or not he's an NFL target earner, remains to be seen. And that is going to be something that we're unsure of. You mentioned the gimmicky offense. We saw Mr. Jackson Dart, who we should probably go to next here, but we saw Jackson Dart throwing darts. And so maybe
What's his name?
His fucking name is Dart, bro. But we might have seen the reason that Trey Harris was so good was the offense and the superstar quarterback. Potentially, right? I always say someone's got to be good, someone's got to be bad. It was the Joe Burrow, offense where it was ended up being Terrace Marshall and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They were just propped up by the awesomeness of Jefferson, Chase, and Burrow. I mean, someone probably wasn't all that good. We just didn't know who it was. Maybe there's a little bit of that happening with Trey Harris and Jackson Dart. Maybe one of them was carrying the other. It could have been Jackson Dart. Those are possibilities. So I think the downside is almost zero for Trey Harris. The upside, boy, it's going to be hard to see him get 80 to 100 targets in year one. And so for that reason, you've got to either look, if you can re-roll for a future second, I have no issue with that because you're going to get a very similar bet with the second. So if you're just like getting the heebie-jeebies you want out, sell for a 26, 27 second, go right ahead. Go right ahead with Trey Harris because I don't think the upside is there where we see him as a future rookie first-round pick value anytime soon.
No, I'm going to be buying him for a future third I think
that's fair.
Is going to be happening.
That's a good call.
First half of the season.
For sure. You sell now for a second, buy in the future for a third on different teams or whatever. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Jax, just to finish off the Trey Harris point here, and then we can talk about Jackson fucking Dart, bro. I know you like a good arbitrary stat head pull, by the way, and so I did a little one today on rookie wide receivers to get, and I think this is in the range of outcomes, less than 50 targets, less than 500 yards receiving. And there's 105 rookie wide receivers since 92 that did that. And I just went down the list. I shared it on my Twitter. If anybody wants to check it out, go follow me at TCL14. There's a link to the whole chart there. So there's a lot of names, but I only counted about 10 guys who turned out as hits thereafter out of that 105. So 10% hit rate for Trey Harris. If we're looking at that, very arbitrary. I just want to put that out there.
I know. I used StatHead for the same reason to look at stuff like that, just to put things into perspective, to
buckets,
understand.
Right?
Yeah, put them in buckets. It's a simple way to do it, of course. So yeah, have fun with that. His name is fucking Dart, bro.
It absolutely is. First performance in the preseason, 12 of 19 for 154 yards, 1 touchdown, quarterback rating of 106. Also ran the ball 3 times for 24 yards. Absolute textbook what we wanted to see from Jackson Dart. Beauty little beginning. Joe, get in there.
I'm surprised you left the meat on the table with the bombshell mom.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, let's get the lesser priority stuff out of the way.
This is the underground, dog. Get the,
we already know about his girlfriend from this show. Let's talk about his mom.
I'd light up a Mrs. Dart once in a while for sure.
Her own darts. 98-mile-an-hour fastballs from that family right there.
Yeah,
good-looking family. You got it.
No, absolutely.
I mean, woo.
Yeah.
These people, my goodness. I mean, look, if that has anything to do with it, he's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt.
Give him the jacket now. Give it to his mom. She'll hold on to it for him.
I tell you what. My goodness. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Yeah, well, in addition to his 12 of 19, I'd say the more prescient statistic and one that we cited during the evaluation process was his under pressure statistics, where he was 4 of 5.
Yes.
Not to mention on that touchdown pass, 30-yarder roughly to little Jordan Humphrey.
Yep.
Most people didn't notice he got absolutely blasted.
Yes, he did. The right guard
throw.
Was a turnstile. Yes.
Exactly. He stood right in there and he threw a dart and then got smoked.
Yep.
So
he also audibled to that play.
Yeah.
He changed the play, ran the play. The guard was an absolute turnstile, missed the block entirely, had a defensive lineman bearing down on him, made the throw. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see. You're absolutely right. The under pressure stats were great. I don't know, man. So far, so good. Look, I don't want to make too much out of the preseason, but it's either good or bad. It was good.
Yeah, I will say it seemed like Dayball, while he was in there, was kind of the play calling was sort of similar to that Ole Miss playbook a little bit, which is a good thing. I mean, that's just a sign of intelligent coaching. Like, let's get him out there doing stuff he's comfortable with.
Yes.
Right. And so that's like just good, communication, or I guess just anticipation from the head coach / offensive coordinator on what's going to work for this guy, just to give him the leeway and get him comfortable. And like, that's what we see out of good offenses. So played well with pressure in his face, which is kind of what we expected from him, which is why we had him ranked so high.
Yeah.
And he has done nothing to dissuade me about our take. As a matter of fact, I'm getting higher on him. And, there's the mom stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just say that I, in one league, did draft Caleb Johnson ahead of Jackson Dart, and that was a huge, huge mistake. I do think that Jackson Dart is above all that. I think he should have been going at pick 7 or 8 in rookie drafts and Superflex the whole time. It was hard to do sometimes. I got enough Jackson Dart at the end of the day, but we should have had so much more. It's the old adage, where you just, it's Bo Nix, it's Michael Penix, it's Josh Allen. It's every single year you go down the list, there's a guy that slips to the second-ish round, the 1-2 turn that you're like, why is he here? And he shouldn't be. And I look, even if he doesn't turn out, he's gonna have some moments like this. He's gonna do some of this stuff. He's gonna be the starter this year. This year he's going to be the starter. I don't know when.
Well, I think if we look at the range, like that range is getting narrower and narrower every time we think about him or hear about him, right? Because as soon as he is the starting quarterback for that team, I think that range gets really narrow to the point where I think at the end of this season, we could be talking about him as like a top 12 dynasty quarterback, because attached to Malik Neighbors, if Brian Daboll continues to show the offensive intelligence that you were talking about, Joe, and that I think he has, like we've talked about him as a really good offensive mind, ability to nurture this kind of quarterback, I think that's easily in the range of outcomes for Jackson Dart in our dynasty minds to be in that top 7 to 12. And I would say that is more likely than his downside situation that is just a complete flame out. Because if we look at the complete flame out, that flame out still has some leash of starting snaps. You know what I mean? So even if he is flaming out in his first couple of seasons, he's probably still going to be in there slugging it out, maybe putting up some ugly fantasy points. But I think there could be potentially a secondary sell window even in the downside case. So love me all of the situations for Jackson Dart.
When do we think he starts starting?
I haven't looked at the schedule too much, like to find that, after the bye, but
when's their bye?
I'm looking at it right now, and let me tell you, it is ugly.
Yes.
It is a brutal start to the season. Commanders week 1, Cowboys week 2, Chiefs week 3, Chargers week 4.
None of that.
Saints week 5. That might be a
that
W.
Could be it.
Eagles week 6. Looks like they have a bye in week 7
or week 8.
Yeah, and then it goes Broncos.
No, their bye is week 14.
Excuse me. Oh, it must be a Thursday night game. Excuse me.
Yep.
And then it goes Broncos, Eagles, Niners, Bears.
Depend how
there's not an easy stretch in there. There's like a one-off game there against the Saints, but like maybe against the Bears, but none of these are cakewalk games.
Russell
Wilson can get the hook. Russell Wilson can get the hook early.
Yeah, we could see all 3 of these guys by week 5.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, send someone else in there. God dang. It's like, Jameis, your turn. It's like,
which it does present the risk that Dayball does not make it through the season. I just want to say, and then the whole simpatico connection that they have could be gone.
You think they could beat the Cowboys, but the Commanders and Cowboys are 2 on the road. Then they're home for the Chiefs, home for the Chargers. I hate all of that. Okay, finally at the Saints, though, they're on the road again. Like, not an easy place to play. I mean, they should almost be favored,
That's
but
a W.
but
Here's the thing.
sure.
Their defensive line,
Yes.
Abdul Carter looks so good.
Oh,
Their
and my God,
defensive
it's gonna be
line,
good.
their defensive line is such a problem that they're
Yes.
going to be in games if they just run the ball and don't turn it over. So
Yes.
like all these look like hard games, but I think the Giants are very underrated from a defensive standpoint, and that's going to be a thing that probably keeps Wilson in play and Dayball his job if he keeps it.
Yep. No, that's a great point.
We're getting beyond our scope now. We're talking about defensive line. This is
You brought it up, pal. You brought up the defensive
This is
line.
the underground. We can go wherever the hell we want,
Hey,
boys.
he wears number 11. It's close enough. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think we're gonna go the last guy of the night. We got a nice tidy little number here. It's your boy Jax.
Oh, come on.
It's the guy
It's
who
the
not
guy.
only is an explosive play machine, rumor also has it is that he's hung like a fucking baseball bat.
You hear that?
And that would be TreVeyon Henderson. So the context here is Jax just drops a reel in the group chat, and I go into this thinking it's going to be, some steam on a rookie or some like sick analysis of that we haven't thought of on why
Oh, it's
somebody's
from
going to
me.
be great. And it's one of those street interviews. And
Yes.
it's this girl on the side of the street with a microphone in her face. And so like my friend got like a picture sent to her, and like it was a football player, and he went to Ohio State and now plays for the Patriots. And then she says that her friend received a picture below this man's knees.
It was below his knee.
And apparently the girl told him to put that thing away because that's a weapon.
That's a weapon.
And
Yeah.
lo and behold, when he gets on the football field, he is also a weapon, guys.
weapon.
And we saw that play out in the first preseason game. TreVeyon Henderson is going to be fun. I just drafted him in a keeper league that I've got, boys, just for you, Jax, just for you. I'm getting on the TreVeyon train. Tell me all about it.
Welcome. Dude, okay. Dope athlete, Ohio State product. Would have been the wide running back 1 last year had he come out. He's a running back 1 this year if Genty doesn't exist. So yeah, this is fun stuff, man. He is absolutely stud muffin. And once you hear he has like a 15-inch pole, that kind of goes a long way too to making sure we're buying into the right kind of player.
I'm not sure. That could impact like the way he runs potentially. I think that might be a net negative.
I think he coils it up or whatever. He's got it figured out.
Just tapes it to his inner thigh just so it's all one.
Yeah, he's got it all figured out. But yeah, dude, I'm so excited. I mean, for your favorite team to get a player that's basically your first round pick. I know Will Campbell, by the way, dude. I'm so excited for this team. But for him to take a house call on his first NFL touch is the coolest thing you can have. And so, yeah, it's setting up for TreVeyon to be kind of an offensive weapon in the breath of Jahmyr Gibbs. He's not quite exactly Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, they're different players, but he's very, very exciting. He's going to have some open space, man.
My notes in watching the TreVeyon film from preseason game 1, which is typically just a stupid exercise. Yeah. But my notes from watching TreVeyon, here it is. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Maybe you got the same DM.
Well,
opening kickoff TD. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I watched his college tape, and this, like, I questioned how much of it was going to translate.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know if the games I sampled, he was playing a little bit injured or something. But holy cow, dude, this guy was gliding.
Yeah,
in that game, he was gliding. It was a lot smooth. Like in college, the games I sampled, it was a little more choppy. I think I said here that he kind of reminded me a little bit of Isaiah Pacheco, like in the way he was running, and like it didn't quite look like that. He was much smoother, and NFL speeds oh dude, this dude is popping hard. Not only that, he was finishing runs and catches, like dropping the shoulder, just displaying some of that power
Yeah.
plus elusiveness. I mean, he just looks faster than I thought he would in the NFL.
And he's also
we
the
were
most.
too low. We were too low, is I guess what I'm saying.
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Look,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's also the best pass blocker, in the backfield
Yeah.
for sure. They love the way he does. He loves doing it. He just fucking destroys people. He does it with technique too, so he's not just lunging at dudes. So he can play any down. He can play any down. He's big enough to carry the goal line role. I don't know that he's going to get everything all the time. I don't think that.
You don't want him to. Give
we don't want him
Ramondre those worthless meat shield touches. Give this guy
Absolutely.
the pass catches and the big play stuff. And
It's fine. 10,
you want
15
another guy in
carries.
there.
Yeah. 5+ targets. That's all we want.
You nailed
I
it. You want a David Montgomery with this guy, right? Let him be Jahmyr Gibbs.
Absolutely.
I will maintain that Ramondre can hold some standalone value in that role, but I will not maintain that Ramondre is still going to be the 1A in this offense. I actually have now moved TreVeyon Henderson. I was the least high on him. He is now at my Dynasty running back 7.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
I just put him ahead
Welcome
of
to
Jonathan
the party,
Taylor,
pal.
behind Omari and Hampton. Because, if we're going to see it translate, like you said, like we always wanted him to be a guy who didn't get the full workload and thought that potentially if it did translate, he could be. I didn't think it would translate. And my shit is not taking him at 5 in some of those rookie drafts like Jax was. And Jax, you nailed that one, buddy. So nicely done. Yeah, and it wasn't even a Patriots homer take. It was this guy's fucking good take because you had him there way before he got drafted to the Patriots. So nice.
Yeah, and I think the Patriots was a fine landing spot, right? It was not the greatest in the world. It was the greatest for me because he's awesome. And
they're going to want to hammer the rock, man. They're going to want to hammer the rock.
Yep. It's going to be great. Ceiling here now, if we're talking best case, worst case.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got to talk about the worst case too, right? Yeah, go ahead.
We got to talk about the worst case. So let's start with the worst case because I don't think it's that bad. Outside of injury, you can't.
Outside of that, worst case is, I don't know, like
it's not bad.
I have it.
What is it?
It's just that Drake May is a little bit of a rushing quarterback, and he just doesn't actually throw the ball to him, even though he got a pretty big target share in that first preseason game.
Yeah.
So Drake May doesn't throw it to him. He doesn't get the high value touches that his skill set sort of, seems to dictate. The offense is just a catastrophe, and he's just a victim of this catastrophic offense. That's kind of the worst case. I don't think that's the likeliest outcome, though. But you go ahead, Jackson.
No, I agree. It's hard to find the worst case, especially with running backs, because it's like, well, is he going to play? If he plays, it'll be fine. It's going to be okay. Like, that's all I give a shit about. Like, what's his name? Oh, Jerome Ford or whomever. It's like, oh, Isaac Garendo, never heard of him. He's fine. Patrick Taylor, he's going to play. He's a wide receiver, running back too. Let's go. So, just getting in the game is good enough in most running back situations. So he's obviously going to be in the game. I think knowing that outside of injury, yes, it's the things you pointed out, but even that I think is going to be like 50 targets. Like, what's seriously, I'm asking like legit, like what's the lowest amount of targets you would be able to say and be like, have a straight face that he's going to get this year?
Yeah, I guess it'd be like 45.
Probably around there. Yeah, probably around there.
I think he's more like a 65-ish, right? Yeah, even with Drake May, I think, because think about it this way, like McDaniel's offenses pass to running backs. I think he's like top 5 in terms of pass rate.
There's always a guy
in his offense. There's always a dude. There's a Shane Vereen. There's a
Danny Woodhead.
Yeah, James White. There's always that dude in a McDaniel's offense. Even, Amir Abdullah, when he was on the Raiders, he started putting up like usable fantasy weeks.
He plays for the Niners now, by the way. Just found that out.
He actually got
fucking box stores. The dream is not dead, boys. The dream is not fucking dead.
I was just saying he got cut yesterday. You're getting too excited.
Oh, what? You could have just not said that and let me keep my bone going.
Didn't they sign someone else there too? Who'd they sign just recently? The Niners.
I don't know.
Sign
But
someone. It was
Corey
irrelevant.
Kiner looked okay in the preseason, though. He was one of my
Somebody, I
extra
forget
deep
who.
running
we
backs.
got like a good 10 years out of Amir Abdullah, dude. He did his thing. He
That's
kept
a
the
W,
job
baby.
at the running back position for that long. He had a fine career. Good on you, Amir.
I love
And
him.
he might latch on somewhere else.
So it's Ramondre's still the 1A in the running game, and he doesn't get the target, which is all hard to imagine. But like, so it's like
Ramondre's really good.
120 to 150 carries and sub 50 targets, and he just doesn't make as many big plays, and he just isn't as usable as we want. That's like the crazy downside I don't see happening. Now the best case scenario is like 100 targets and big plays all the fucking time.
I think Drake May makes 100 targets a little bit tricky, but I
I
think
agree.
what we see in today's NFL, like the top running backs are getting like 70. And
I shouldn't
so
say 100. It's more like 80-ish,
still,
but
that's yeah, for sure. I know what you're saying though. Like it's
just
like
a lot
top end of top end. Yeah, for
yes.
sure.
Just
Yeah, I think
the
it's there,
81
man.
targets that Kamara gets every
Even
year.
without that, the explosiveness means that even without that, you know what I mean? And even if he has like a down year where we don't necessarily see that explosiveness consistently, but he's going to flash it at least. So we're still going to have that hope. Like
I
that
just
hope.
want to see, the
still gonna be
200
there.
plus carries and the 75 plus targets. If you
Jameer
just
Gibbs
tell me
last
that,
year. Jameer Gibbs last year.
oh yeah, we're rolling.
I want to just while we're talking Patriots backfield, I want to pour one out for lunch pail holder, hard hat wearer, Lan Larison broke his foot, played through it, still scored a touchdown and played well on a broken foot. So he looked great, but his season is probably done. I'm guessing they're going to place him on injured reserve. By the way, I just looked it up. Amir Abdullah got placed on IR. He didn't get cut, so I'm sorry, but his season's over.
Same deal.
Not necessarily. He come back from that, right?
I think it was season ending. I think it was the season ending variety. But that being said, so Lan Larison got placed, or he broke his foot. I'm assuming he's getting placed on IR. I was thinking Lan might actually steal that number 3 role and that Gibson was going to be a trade or a cut candidate, but it probably means that Gibson is sticking around.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit of a do-it-all, kind of a backup to both positions. I think he was kind of their 2-minute back last year. I assume that's all going to TreVeyon. But Gibson's kind of like a backup for both. But anyways, I'd just be remiss if I didn't mention Lan Larison. We saw you. We love you. We'll see you next season. And I'm hanging on to my land bags.
And maybe we
shout out Biggs too, by the way. Shout out Biggs and UC Davis.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe we shift our attention to yet another Patriots lunch pail holder in something called an Efton Chisholm III.
He could be the guy. He could be a guy.
I thought we were rapping. We're gonna do this. We're doing this.
No, we have to do this. We have to do Efton Chisholm as the lunch pail holders.
Let me be clear. We don't have to do Efton Chisholm here.
I think
but
owe it
I
to all the
mentioned
lunch
him,
pail
we can
viewers.
do him. Yes,
we've got guys right now holding their lunch pail, waiting for a lunch pail segment.
I mean, we were going to finish on TreVeyon, but if you'd prefer to finish on Efton Chisholm III, Jack, so we can absolutely
that's
do
on
that.
brand, don't you?
So tell
Should
me
we talk about
Jack?
his 4.76 40-yard dash?
Because he was running
on, Joe.
He was running
Or the
it like
fact
this,
that
side to side. He was just juking the whole way. He still ran
the
a
fact that he's
4.7.
almost 24 years old. Where would you like to start?
Oh my God, the disrespect. The disrespect. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola would all like a word with you.
You're about to have an Efton Jism over this guy.
Look, if he makes the team, just watch out. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Watch out.
Looking at his picture right now, that guy doesn't play in the NFL, dude.
Hey, that's what they said about Hunter Renfrow.
Your favorite player is what's his face?
That's what they said
Renfrow.
about Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Renfrow has he has like a weathered kind of like I don't know, beatenness to him, right? This guy looks like, I don't know, he's cutting my sandwich at Subway.
Dude, whatever.
If he doesn't make the team, he might be.
Don't be hating on us weird looking whats, okay? Oh my God, yeah. No, he looks like the kid who thinks he's gangster and is like bootlegging his album on the corner. And that's what I think. He's
I
white,
don't know,
but he
man.
thinks he's way harder with his little
neck beard
thingy.
Yeah, he's got like that neck beard. It's not even like connected to his mustache. I don't know about this one,
Do you
guys. I don't
do you
know.
know what college he came from?
Um,
Oh, you're
yeah.
gonna drop a Cooper Cup on us?
Wow.
Hey,
Eastern
I can't
Washington.
make this stuff up. You guys said it.
They're a fucking
I mean, they
factory out
have
there.
a type. They
That is
have
a
a
lunch
type. They
pail
Hey,
like
this
factory
is a
in
lunch
Eastern
pail.
Washington.
He's part of this is the lunch pail funnel. This is how it's done. We know what
Lunch
we're
pail
doing.
U, Eastern
Lunch pail
Washington.
you.
They love those neck beards, dude. They
Dude, he
love
shows
those
up
neck
early
beards.
to practice every time.
He
Last guy to
could be
leave.
Cooper Cup's nephew or cousin or something. He could
That's what
absolutely
I-
be fucking
I-
Cooper Cup's cousin.
I'm gonna do the downside case real quick, and then I'll let you give the upside
Oh
case.
my god.
Okay.
We never talk about him again
Right.
after this episode is the downside case. Now go ahead, give me the upside.
Hall of Famer.
Never
Hall of
talk
Fame.
about him again.
Hall of Fame. Super Bowl MVP. 150 targets per year. Something north of Welker and Edelman. We've seen this before. We know how to bring these guys to light. Yeah, Hall of Fame career. So
You heard it here first.
pick 'em up.
Heard it here first. Don't think there could be a better note for us to end on. It was fantastic getting back into the lab with you two boys. There is not much more fun that I could have than jumping in here and shooting the shit with you fellas. Because it's not only do we have fun talking ball, but there's some good laughs mixed in. So I hope that resonates with our viewers and our listeners. Please subscribe. Please follow on those audio platforms and check us out. The season is so close. We did it. Another off season is almost in the books. That's prime time for us is the off season, and we almost got another one down. So congratulations to all. Another season coming now. I am Trav for Jax, for Joe. Until next week, peace.